Welcome to the Got Any Cows podcast. If you want to learn all you can about the beef cattle industry, this is the podcast for you. My name is Seth Christensen. My company has sent beef cattle genetics to 45 of the 50 states and 12 countries around the world. I've had the chance to learn from some of the best and brightest in the beef cattle industry, and I invite you to join me for those conversations here on the Got Any Cows podcast. We're here for another episode of the Got Any Cows podcast. I'm here with my friend Doug Coombs, and I've dealt with Doug for years and years. I am thrilled to be here with you, Doug.
I'm glad to be with you.
Excited about it. You know, I've worked with you. I'm trying to think when I'd have first met you, but I mean, it's been years. I started getting into AI when I was 15 years old, and I'm 32 now. So, I'd bet from the time I first started into it, I'd have been here, you know, working on putting up bulls with you and things. So it's got to be 15 plus years, you know, that I've known you and worked with you. And I am really grateful that you're willing to take the time, because I know you've got a million and one things going. I know how much you do here. So just appreciate you being willing to sit down with me.
Well, I'm glad to have you here.
Thanks so much. So if you would, Doug, kind of just to give people a feel for who you are, like I'd mentioned before we hit record, we'll kind of just start at the front edge of your career and then roll through to kind of what Hoffman AI is today and what you do. But going clear back to even, I guess, where do you come from and how did you end up here?
Well, I grew up on a cattle ranch in southwest Colorado. My dad is from Boulder, Utah, down in Garfield County. And we ended up, I was in the 5th grade, we moved over to Red Ranches, and he worked there for 30 years, but that's where I grew up. And so I always wanted to be a cowboy. That's what I thought I was going to be. And I actually met Mr. Hoffman. He used to come to Red Ranches and test the bulls when I was a little boy. My mom would fix dinner for all the crew, and that's the first time I ever met Mr. Hoffman, Keith Hoffman, who started the Hoffman Breeders. Okay. He would travel around, and he actually got his start. He was the lab man for Cache Valley Breeder Service back in the late 50s. He started there when they very first started. And then he worked there for 20 years, and when Select Sires came in and bought out Cache Valley Breeder Service, he had developed over the years his custom bull program collection. He'd travel up into Montana in the old 1960 style pickup trucks, and that I've got pictures. It's pretty. It's kind of a pioneering type deal. Back in the day when the AI first started, they would collect the semen and deliver it fresh. Mm-hmm. And then they started having technicians that once they come out with the straw, and first it was ampules and then the straw. Cache Valley Breeder Service, at the time there were lots of dairies right in our valley here in Cache Valley. That was a big industry. Yeah. And so there, I don't know how many, they probably had 30 or 40 technicians. And that's what they did, is just bred cows for dairymen. Huh. And as time evolved, the dairymen began to do more and more of their own breeding. But Cache Valley Breeder Service was bought out by Select Sires in the late 70s. Okay. And Keith Hoffman started Hoffman AI Breeders out of his own garage. Basically, still went to the farm and collected the bulls, and he was able to buy the property we're on now. We've been here since about 1980. I think the property was bought in 85, 86, and we've been here ever since. And now we used to be out in the country, and now we're in the middle of the city. And so hopefully, yeah. we're that's one of our challenges today. But so I met Keith Hoffman when I was young. I knew who he was. So I graduated from animals. I graduated from BYU back when they had the program, their animal science program in Provo. Okay. I was one of the tail end of that deal. Mm-hmm. And I graduated from animal science, and I thought, I thought I was going to go back to the ranch, manage the ranch, or do something along that line. Yeah. And I came up, I decided, well, I was going to get a master's degree and get an MBA. So I got accepted at Utah State to get an MBA degree, and I moved up to Logan. Okay. And since I knew Keith Hoffman, I just, out of the blue, I just came here. I started working here, cleaning pens and just, and we were very fortunate, and timing is everything, I think, and you'll find in life, everything is, it's all timing.
Yeah.
And we were able to, I worked for Keith Hoffman for about 5 years, and I have a partner. This actually owns part of the business with me. His name is Lance Moore. He actually has a ranch in McGill, Nevada.
Okay.
He and I worked together for the first 4 or 5 years. We were able to, Keith wanted to retire, and so we were able to buy him out. He made it possible for us to buy him out. We basically was his retirement, and he financed it in a way that we were able to do that over a period of time. And Lance was with me for the first 4 or 5 years, and then he had the opportunity to go with his father-in-law, bought a ranch down in Nevada, and he went with him, and that's what he does today. He's still partner. He's my partner, but he doesn't have anything to do with the day-to-day operations of the business. I work now with my son, one of my sons. His name's Spencer, and he's been with me now for about 5 years, and I'm doing less and less. I'm reminded all the time that I'm reminded of why are you here? I have to remind them that the source of their blessings. Anyway, no, he's good work. And it's a different. Fortunately, we live in an area where we still can get good help. We have kids that work. I have young guys. I call them kids. Some of them are 30 and 40 years old. I still call them kids, but they've been here with me. Fortunately, I've had good help that we don't have a lot of turnover, and so it makes a lot of difference in our operation. Where we have that gives us consistency, and we get along with each other, and so we've been fortunate in that way. And we live in an area where we still have young guys that come in that want to work. With the college here, Utah State has a good agriculture program, and now with the vet school, a lot of kids with animal background. So you're not training from scratch.
Right.
And sometimes that's a challenge. There are certain things that you can train people to do lab stuff, but especially my guys that work out with the bulls and work out in the, they need to have some kind of cattle savvy to know when something's sick or when something, just know how to read an animal.
Yeah.
There's a talent there, and it's not something you can learn from a book. It's from being around them.
Right.
Absolutely. And so we're here today. I think I've been here since 1990, so pushing 40 years, close 35 some years, and we've seen a lot of changes over the years. And the business has grown steadily as we've, and I attribute that to the crew we have, and it's still it's an agriculture business. I always wanted to be an ag business, but it's also a service business, and it's more of a service business than an agriculture business, because your customer service is your main. That's what keeps you in business.
Oh, man, absolutely. Well, and we depend on you so heavily. Every time I run an auction, every time I run a private treaty sale, every time I do anything that touches frozen genetics, it's touching Hoffman AI. Like the second to the name Christensen Genetics that's listed on everything I sell, the second most often mentioned name would be stored at Hoffman AI in Logan, Utah.
Yeah. Well, I hope we take care of you that way. There's a lot we're trying to modernize as time goes. A lot of I still have filing cabinets full of folders from clear back in the 70s. And we've been working steadily to get all that stuff on where we can have records at our fingertip. Right. We've just developed a new program for our lab work. It's all online. It'll be where everything's stored electronically, as well as if we need, we can print off and it's good to have that kind of information. You'd be surprised how many people will call and wonder about something that they did in 1995.
Yes. Yeah.
And most of the time, if you don't have that, you can't throw anything away, because you never know when somebody's going to want information.
Right.
Whether they want to track some kind of their bloodlines they use, or whether they want to track what happened to this semen and things like that.
Well, and like you mentioned there can be stuff that was more or less forgotten about for 20, 30 years. And a perfect example in the breed I deal with most in Akaushi, the Rushaw bull was imported in 1976, and I'm sure for most all the time that semen's been in existence, it didn't trade for any more money than any other semen. Maybe it was $5, maybe it was $10, maybe it was 50. If it was high, the highest I've seen it sell is at 22,000 for a straw of Rushaw. I've personally paid 12,000 for a straw of Rushaw, and that was a deal. And
right.
And somebody somewhere somehow along the way has had to keep track of that for 50 years. From the time that bull came in until 2025, and that's a huge endeavor. So going back to when you and was it Lance Moore, you mentioned as your partner, when you guys started operating, what was a normal day like as you guys kind of got this thing going and running? What did a day look like? In what year would that have been again? 1980?
It was 94.
94, sorry. 94.
When we started on our own.
Okay.
And, it was just he and I, and we had a couple part-time guys that come in on collection day to help us. We didn't do near the volume of bulls that we do now. A big collection day back then was 10 bulls. To compare to today, my guys would think that we were going out of business if we just did 10 bulls.
Yeah.
But 10 bulls was a big day. But we had 3 times of the year that we would have more than that, but especially summertime is really slow. But we used to put up. He and I did most of we'd clean the pens. We'd do everything. We didn't hire. Like I said, we just needed help on collection day, basically. Yeah. And then we'd haul the hay. We'd get hired guys to help haul hay. That's back. We'd haul it in small bales and stack it in the barn. Yeah. And Lance, generally, I stayed and did most of the work at the facility here. I was in charge. We basically did all the inventory, all the collection, and Lance, in the springtime, he would travel. He did all the on-farm work, and it was kind of interesting. First, he got married the first year we bought it, so him and his wife, I think that's how they spent their honeymoon, is traveling around Montana and Idaho collecting bulls. Yeah, but and it worked quite well that way. And as time went on, we kept getting more and more, and we hired a few more people to help. That we need them more. And during that time, we were also building a lot. Lance was really good at that kind of stuff. He built a few barns, and he spent most of the summer times. That's why we'd build facilities, and he was really good at that. And I'd mostly take care of the inventory and collection and all the paperwork and bills and most of the office stuff.
Yeah, a humongous endeavor to keep track of even, walk us through when you and I were just going through kind of doing a tour just now, kind of going through production, which was fun. Like I'd mentioned to you, I've been in and out of here or just sent bulls down to you more times than I can count. But because it's a business and I always want to respect your time, I've not gone through with you, to kind of look a little better at the whole production process. But you'd mentioned to me, back when you first started, what you had for semen storage capacity versus what you have now. What would it have been like back when you first got rolling for how many straws you'd have had in storage versus where you're at now?
Well, it's always been a paperwork nightmare. It doesn't matter how many straws you have. Mm-hmm. But we've also we've come up with more technology to help us. We'd collect the bulls. I'd get done. My day would be basically on a collection day. We'd collect the bulls. We used to have to make rubber stamps to label the straws. I'd have to set type to make a rubber stamp for each bull, especially new ones that come in. And we had a straw labeler, and that would take part of the day. And then I'd work on getting my shipments out. And then I'd have to go back and process, and we'd spend the night freezing.
Oh, really?
And we'd freeze it. And I still have a guy that comes in now, and that's what his job is. He freezes semen. He starts about 5 o'clock in the springtime. It's a 6-7 hour job. Even, it just depends on how much volume we have to freeze.
Yeah.
But it's and so we used to do all that by ourselves, and I'd do the inventory, keep it in. Just used to keep everything written down in books, and our motto here is if it doesn't get written down, it never happened.
Yeah.
And so if somebody calls and you're talking about this straw Rusha,
Yeah.
back when they collected him, they probably didn't even think about that. They had probably thousands of straws, didn't worry about where 3 straws are.
Yeah. Yeah.
And today, if you had 3 straws, if you lost one of those 3 straws, it would be a monumental problem.
Right. Right. Oh,
And so that's what we try. I know mistakes will happen, and that's the other thing that's good about our workers. If you make a mistake, you admit it right now.
Right.
Because you can't bury it. You've got to come out, and because so we know what happened.
Yes. Yes.
And we can try to figure out what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot of double check and double checks that we do.
Oh, absolutely.
One thing we do when we collect the semen, we'll collect the semen. We have one person that too many cooks spoil the stew. So you have one person, that's their job basically. And then another person will come and kind of double check them on when you inventory it. So we say the guy comes in and when he freezes, he writes down, I froze 372 straws. When they go to put that semen away, if they come up with 371, where's that one straw go?
Yep.
And so we have to make sure that everybody's accurate on their counts. And then we also, another thing we really pay attention to is post-thaw evaluation. Each collection we thaw 1 or 2 straws from each collection. We have bulls that we've never thrown a collection away ever.
Yeah.
But you still check them because you never know. There should something go wrong during that processing.
Right.
They may have excellent quality, sperm quality, or themselves are good producers, but sometimes there may be a problem with your extender. Yes. or your cooling rate, or something happens like that. That's why we double check every batch.
Yes. Yep.
And so right now I do most of the post-thaw evaluation. Spencer does some, and I'll go back through, and if there's some that are questionable to him, then I'll double check him.
Sure.
And we've been able to evolve also over the years the technology. It used to be just mostly microscopic, it's eyeballing. Yeah. And with experience, that's one thing, but someone new, everybody looks at something a little differently. And we've been able to I've got a new sperm evaluation system that it'll tell you the viability.
Yeah.
Count, it'll give you exact count. Yeah. Things like that. And that's one thing we're finding in today's world more and more, especially when they're using semen and IVF. And we really see it in our stallion collection, and we do collect a few dogs as well. That's something it's something you do behind the barn, but that's a bit, you'd be surprised how many, but you have to really make sure you have enough sperm in that straw.
Yeah.
A stallion, you want to have a minimum of 800 million cells per breeding. Well, it used to be we just overload it and guess and hope that there was enough.
Sure.
But now we can get it pretty precise, and we can tell them exactly how many straws they're going to have to use to get that 800 million cells.
Yeah.
And cattle, each species has different standards.
Yeah. What would be a normal sperm count per straw in a straw of semen from a bull?
We normally try to we want there to be a total of about 35 to 40 million in every straw. Now that's probably double. Industry standard is about 15 million. And the conception rate, I don't know. I'm kind of old school. I think the more you got more chances. Now some bulls are higher fertility. There's no question. Sure. You can get by with less. And now with the sex sorted semen, you're dealing with 2 to 4 million cells. and so it's, you can get by with it still comes down to sperm quality. If you can have 40 million sperm cells in a straw, but if 50% of them are abnormal, that's not going to get the job done.
Right.
In fact, you're going to get terrible results.
Yep. Yep. Well, and I've noticed, I mean, I have used semen from every stud under the sun to breed cows. I mean, I did custom AI to pay my way through college and to scrape together a down payment to get my ranch bought. And so I have AI using semen from everywhere. And I've never had a better success rate than what I have using Hoffman semen.
Well,
you guys do a wonderful job.
Well, hopefully everybody has the same experience. I know there are times when somebody will have a bull that has less fertility or whatever. And fortunately, that's the easiest thing to check.
Yep. Yep.
Once the semen leaves, all I can do is guarantee that it's good when it leaves here. There's a million things that can go wrong, but if we keep records and we know what it is when it leaves, then we do have some like especially in our sheep and goat stuff, we video every collection because it's a whole different group of it's a different business. And so we just want to make sure that our customers know that they're getting a good product to start with.
Right.
There's there's some education involved, especially a lot of new people get in. They think AI is going to solve all their reproductive problems. It's only going to make them more complicated. Right. If you have reproduction problems in your herd, AI is not going to help you.
Right. Right.
There's nutrition. There's your cows, whether they're cycling or not. It's whether or not they're at the right stage when you breed them of their cycle. All those things multiply against each other. You can have 100% on on three of them and 50% on one. You're down to 50%.
Right. Right. So looking back, as you started building out the business here and kind of the state of the industry when you were first working here at Hoffman AI versus the state of the industry now, what drove people to collect a bull in 1994? What brought people to you and Lance and made them say, hey, we'd love to be your client. Please freeze semen on this bull for us versus, I guess, going through time from there till now, what has changed, I guess, and what drives a person to want to collect a bull?
Well, when we first started, most of our customer base were either dairies that would, and they were the show guys. It wasn't the commercial. We didn't do a lot of mass, big production or big volume bulls for dairies because, that's the big AI studs. They kind of control that whole thing. We'd have dairymen that come in that are proven. Most of our customers were these guys that were proven bulls themselves, so they needed to get the bulls collected so they can get the semen distributed so they can prove their own bulls. Yeah. And they in turn would try to lease those bulls to the dairies or to the big studs or sell them to the big studs. Yeah. There's hardly any of that goes on anymore.
Right. Completely
so most
landscape.
Of the dairy bulls we collect are show guys. They're really worried about they pay a lot of attention to type and things and they don't collect a lot of volume because they're not going to sell a lot of semen.
Right.
But they're trying to, they have a good bull and they want to try and keep that in their cows. Yeah. Our biggest customers back when we first started were purebred beef guys that would sell anywhere from 100 to 200 bulls a year. Every year they'd have their new herd sire, or our biggest rush for a lot of years was 2 weeks after the Denver Stock Show. Because everybody go buy their new herd bull. And they'd bring him, and most people collected semen, and they still do today, as an insurance policy in case he gets hurt. Yeah. They might collect 100 or 200 straws and may never use any of it. As they'll use it, or they'll take him home, and if he turns out to be a good bull and has good daughters, then they'll come and bring him back and collect a bunch of semen on him and AI more extensively to him. Yeah. And there are guys that we'd usually have 2 or 3 a year that would collect a bull. They would go and peddle semen, they were, and so they were the ones that would help keep us busy,
Right, that makes sense.
And as it's progressed, compared to what we do now, the beef on dairy has really changed the whole world for what we do now, because we're collecting bulls, and it's not so much the number of bulls, but it's the volume of semen, because the dairy industry has changed so much in the last 30 years. In Cache Valley here, when I first moved here, there was a dairy on every corner.
Yeah.
Every family that lived here since the pioneers came had a dairy.
Yeah.
They'd milk 50 to 150 cows.
Yeah.
And that, out where I live now, there were probably 7 or 8 dairies in Paradise, and that many more, 10 or 12 in Hiram.
Yeah.
And in Young Ward College, all throughout here, there were a ton of dairies out through, and they're all gone.
Yep.
There's probably in Cashville, there's probably 10 dairies now
Yeah.
at the most,
Yep.
and they're bigger. They're but the dairies we're sending the semen to now, instead of 500 cows, which used to be a pretty good sized dairy, and they was family run, now they're 5,000 to 25,000 cows, and there's corporate run, and that's kind of what's changed the whole. It's a whole new dynamic.
Yeah, entirely different. So, I mean, looking at AI as a technology, and I always have to laugh because AI now is the buzzword. Everybody else, AI is changing this and AI is changing that. I'm like, look, I've been in AI since way before it was cool. But looking at AI, artificial insemination, as a technology, what would you say is the most valuable component of artificial insemination as a technology? When someone says, hey, should I or should I not collect a bull or whatever else, why is artificial insemination important? Why does that technology matter?
I think that the biggest reason you need AI, from a production standpoint, is you can mate your cattle. You can use genetics that are you couldn't afford to buy the bull. First of all, you can use genetics that normally wouldn't be available to you.
Yeah.
And you can breed more cows to that same bloodline. That's the biggest thing. I think the thing that's changed the AI business more than anything, and it still is the advancements that have been made. It's the sex semen. That's changed a lot of the way people breed their cattle, and with the combination of sex semen and IVF embryo transfer work, it's a whole different world.
Completely different.
You can the matings, if you have a superior cow, you can mate her to different bulls, but the number of offspring just from 1 or 2 straws of semen, it changes everything. And it's a challenge for custom studs like us, because we have to rely on using something. We have to pay someone else to do the sorting for us.
Sure.
And it's expensive. And so guys that, when it costs you more to process sex semen than you can go buy it, the difference is that the AI company may not have the bull or the genetics you want to use. So it's worth paying the extra money to get it done, just so you can use it that way.
Right.
But it's still from a mass production standpoint, just regular AI is still the way to go, because you can breed more cows. You can breed an unlimited number of cows to the same bull. You can time them through your synchronization programs. You can breed them at your convenience, and it's still, that's, and like I say, you can use genetics that you normally wouldn't be able to afford. Some of these bulls were collected, the way with the beef prices now, today's or yesterday's $2,000 bull cost you $8,000 today. And so, we get these bulls that come in, used to come get a bull into the stud. Wow, he brought $25,000. That's a bull, that's a herd bull, or that's a range bull now sometimes, and so it really, but that's still money that they've had to spend, and they want to maximize those genetics.
Yeah.
And you can breed that, with one bull on a normal breeding range or situation, especially in our area. If you can get that bull to breed 40 cows in a season, they're doing pretty good.
Oh, absolutely.
Whereas if you get in collecting, you can breed 1,000.
Right. Right, right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So if you look at Hoffman AI as an entity and going back to, as you and Lance built it out, what would you say would be kind of some of the milestones, as from the time you got started 30 years ago or 30 plus years ago until now, some of the things, I guess, in how you operate or in facilities or in pieces of technology you added, what would be some milestones along the way for Hoffman AI as a business in your career here?
Well, I think just the just starting on it when you start out, we're two young guys that we're too dumb to know better. You look. That's why when you're young, you need to do this kind of stuff, because when you get old, you think, man, we're lucky.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think the things that come, we were fortunate enough to, and I still give them credit. What helped us during some of these early years, we were able to get bulls in we collected for other AI studs. That's what built there. We collected several Holstein bulls. That was back when accelerated genetics was going strong. Yeah. We had a Holstein, and it was one of our dairy customers that he sold semen for the company. Yeah. And he was able to bring a bull in that they couldn't get into the stud back there they couldn't export him because he was blue tongued. I can't remember what he had, positive for something. So they could still sell the semen here, and he was very high demand.
Yeah.
And we were fortunate enough to get 2 or 3 of those bulls like that. Mm-hmm. And that really helped us get started. Yeah. And as the dairy, and we were fortunate enough to start in with on the front end of the Angus deal. There are a lot of Angus breeders in Idaho and Montana and Utah. Yeah. And that really helped us as well. I think one of the things that's really helped our business more than is the amount. It takes a lot of time and it's a lot of work. Is the travel. Mm-hmm. Our on-farm service is really. That probably is a half of our business. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I wonder, why don't we just have them bring them here? Well, the problem is in today's cattle industry, most of our cattlemen, you find if you're fortunate enough to be a full-time cattleman, you're lucky. Most of them have a farm or a ranch that they've inherited or they've been able to purchase, but they also have a day job. And so a lot of them don't have the opportunity. They can't just take 2 days off to haul their bull to the stud. Sure. And come home, And so they either have to hire it done, or which is expensive, or, we can come right to the ranch and collect, and we've developed our technique and we've developed our process over the years. I used to go and I'd collect 4 or 5 bulls. I'd park at the motel at 10 o'clock and I'd stay in the truck and freeze semen all night. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then start over the next day. But we've learned how to do things over time and find out how we can, and now we can collect 25 bulls in a day, and we haven't noticed any reduction in our fertility, and people get along with the semen. And that's one thing about a service business or a business like ours. No news is usually good news.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
And so and when they call you back, that's what our whole goal is the customer that comes in and collects in a flash in the pan and comes in and collects 10,000 straws. They're nice. But the guy I like is the guy that comes in and brings me a bull and collects 100 straws every year. Yeah. And we try to treat them all the same. Yeah. Because they're all important to us.
Oh yeah.
And so, and now in the last 5-10 years, the dairy, beef on dairy has really changed everything, as far as the whole industry is concerned. Right. Most of the bulls we have here right now, one thing it does for us is it keeps us busy all year round. Yeah. Before it was really seasonal. We'd collect bulls We'd be busy from February till about the first of June is almost like a milestone. It's like school's out and summer starts and there's nothing to do, you know.
Yeah.
But now we're busy all year round because most of these, like I say, most of these dairies we talked about, they're not milking 300 or 400 cows. They're milking 25,000 cows, and that's a lot of cows to breed.
Oh yeah.
And they're going through semen, and the way most of them do it is they'll take their top, I don't know what percentage, but top 10-15% of their cows, they're going to breed them first with sex semen,
Right.
especially in Jersey dairies.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, we never collected a lot of Jersey bulls over the years just because we weren't in the right area, I guess. But even then, today, in today's world, you come and collect a Jersey bull, if you can't get sex semen on him, nobody wants to use it.
Right. Right.
But with what they do is they'll breed their cows with sex semen, maybe 1 or 2 services. If they don't settle, they'll go right to a beef bull. And so some of these beef bull, some of these dairies are breeding cows that they're in the way they're producing now. These cows they're being worked so hard, and so it's hard to get them bred back.
Yeah.
There's some of these dairies that are talking 4th, 5th, 6th service before they ever get settled. So if you can get a bull, and usually with the beef bulls, I don't know, genetics wise, everything, they tend to get a little better conception. With sex semen, you know, they use it mainly in their embryo programs, and they do breed a lot of heifers. You have pretty good success from what I, talk to people, and a lot of the dairymen have got they can get as good a conception with sex semen on heifers as they do with conventional semen. You know, because the heifers aren't working and everything's good fertility-wise there,
Right. Right.
And so that's really what's the difference today is that, the volume we do is just basically, due to the dairy, the semen we're sending into dairies.
Oh yeah, and like you'd mentioned, I mean, the beef on dairy thing has changed the trajectory of the entire industry. Of the major studs. And for you guys as a custom collector, and just the landscape of the beef industry at large going forward. You look at this captive supply of high quality beef that is just consistent as all get out because the feed's the same, the genetics are the same, they're calving year round, so it's a consistent supply chain, and it has, and like you mentioned, that's only possible because of sexed semen and because of that as a technology, and you look at the changes that has made. But maybe if you would, Doug, kind of walk us through the evolution of that technology of sexed semen and what it was like when it was first released versus, like you'd mentioned, now it can be comparable. Walk us through that evolution.
They've done a lot of work. I'm not, to be honest with you, I only know what I've read and dealt with firsthand as far as having bulls produce semen for sex semen. But I have paperwork, or I have documents from clear back in the 80s when they were working on this. They first started.
Yeah.
And it was a pipe dream.
Yeah. Right.
And then they, through over the years, they've got and a lot of it was done with the assistance from the USDA, and they've developed the technique. It's always been the same process, with flow cytometry and sorting the cells by charge, but it's just a technique that's been perfected over time. And then, the only disadvantage, it's the technology is owned by one outfit, and so it controls the whole system. Actually, there's 2. But they've had to, but you don't have many choices.
Right.
And so I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see, it may happen. Somebody may develop a new technique that makes it more viable to be competitive and have an opportunity to use it.
Right.
As of it right now, most custom, and even the AI studs, the big studs they have to use someone else to sort for them.
Right. Yeah.
And
yeah.
so it's as far as it's been something that's been on the horizon for a long time.
Yeah.
And it really has changed the whole industry. Especially, you saw it first in the dairy industry. Springer heifers went from $2,500 a head to almost nothing. As soon as you start getting it, you start getting when you can have a cow, when you can have 10-to-1 heifers,
Yeah.
pretty soon that market's gone.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
But on the other hand, you can also maximize the genetic. You got full sibs out of one mating.
Yep.
You got clones of basically of their best cows.
Sure. Yep. And it's changed the industry entirely, and it's one of those things that I look at, it presents a number of challenges, like you'd mentioned, it's changed entirely, so some of the things as to what semen is or isn't collected or where it is or isn't used. And then, coming clear around to the calves that come from that, it's changed the beef industry and that supply chain, but also presents some neat opportunities, and I look at, like, for us going forward, historically, I've been able to purchase cows to carry embryos as cheaper than I can produce them. But where we're at record high cattle prices right now in the commercial market, and we're at record high interest rates as far as using a line of credit or whatever else to get that stuff picked up, we're to the stage where it's cheaper to produce them, so long as I can make sure they're female, because that a heifer that identifies as a male doesn't work real well for me to carry those embryos.
Right.
And so being able to make those be heifer calves is a big deal for us, and in the case of, we just had you guys put up some sexed semen for us just the other day, and that is a son of one of my very best cows, that has just done fantastic for us, done a fleet of different things well for us. And I want more cows like that, and like they say, a bull will sire daughters like his mother. And if we can get more daughters as opposed to just more sons of that bull, that'll lend itself kind of to our strategy going forward. So,
well, I think the combination, one of the biggest challenge with sex semen when it first started was conception rate and fertility.
Mm-hmm.
But they've worked the kinks out of that, and I think there's some differences in timing and things like that. But I really think the biggest help with sex semen has helped sex semen along is IVF.
Yeah, for sure.
Because with IVF, you don't need near as many sperm cells, and you can pretty much steer them right into the egg they need to be put in.
Yeah.
With one straw, like we talked earlier, one straw you can make 10, 20 calves.
Yep. We say we've made up to 100 embryos off a single unit of semen, and even at frozen IVF, success rates are going to be roughly 40%. That's still 40 calves. If I can transfer them fresh, it's more like 55 off a single unit of semen.
So the combination of that's really changed the whole industry. There's still going to be a place for, I think, custom bull collection in that guys are wanting to develop their own cat genetics.
Yeah.
And we do still have, there's still a lot of our purebred beef guys that are the bigger ones, especially, they all have their own breed lines, their own lines of cattle.
Yep.
And that's how they stay in business, is because they're able to provide a service or an animal that somebody else can't.
Right.
That works for their customers.
Yep.
And so AI is not going to go anywhere.
No.
Because you still need to be able to do that, and the types of programs you do might change, but it's still going to be an integral part of cattle reproduction.
Right. And, and like you'd mentioned, I mean, for the average person just getting into it, it's probably best to dial in even just a natural service breeding program. Make sure your repro program is solid before you try to introduce something like AI. And then from there, I think it's a really important distinction, what we're just talking about here, between conventional semen and sexed semen. Like you've mentioned, a straw semen coming from Hoffman AI, usually 35 to 40 million sperm cells in a single unit. Conception rate, if put into, again, fleet of other factors at play here. The cow's got to be in good shape at the appropriate stage of an estrus cycle, put in by an experienced technician, but your success rates are going to be very, very strong. Whereas I think if somebody gets a straw of sexed semen and assumes everything is identical, for one, it's 4 million sperm cells, not 40. So, I mean, we're a tenth of the total concentration. Now, it still can be used successfully, but we're just stacking that many I guess there's that many more factors against us. You know what I mean? You've got that much less wiggle room or that much less of a buffer protecting you from a train wreck per se. You know, I would say I would never recommend to somebody that doesn't already have. First, they need the established natural service before the AI, but I think they need to have an established, successful AI program before we jump into using things like sexed semen or jump into using things like IVF or embryo transfer, you know, additional applied reproductive technologies. And it can be so tempting to jump right to the tail end of that whole process because it is neat. You know what I mean? It is neat that we say, I can make 100 embryos off this single unit of semen. It is neat to say I can control the gender of the resulting calves. Like, there's a bunch of really cool things about applied repro. That's what I spend all day, every day in. But I think people have to establish a program, like you'd mentioned, even within your processes here. You established processes to be able to run the number of bulls you do and to be able to put out the quality of product you do and provide the level of service you do and things like that. So as you look at again, I guess the growth of Hoffman AI and your career here, Doug, what would you say are some of the keys that have kept you in business as there's been all these different shifts you've just gone through in the industry with beef on dairy and with sexed semen and with changes in all these competing AI studs and things like that? What have been some of the keys to what's kept you in business through all those changes?
Well, I like to think that it's like like I told before, it's customer service. It's treat people how you'd like to be treated. You know, you and I are consumers also, and we know what, you know, I deal with, you know, I have vendors I have to deal, and I know the ones I don't ever go back to.
Oh yeah, yep.
You know, and that's the biggest thing. The other thing is put out a good product.
Yeah.
If that's probably the most important part,
Yeah.
is put out a good project, do a good job, do what you say you're going to do, and then stand behind it.
Yeah.
And treat people good, and they'll come back to you. I believe that.
Yeah.
You know, and as I think is something that a challenge we have. One of the challenges we have is, you know, we're dealing nowadays. A lot of our clients and new people that we deal with don't come from farming or ag backgrounds, and so they have a different expectation.
Yeah.
You know, they don't understand. Biology is not 100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's one of the biggest challenges we face, not only in this business, but in farming, in food production. There's so many factors that can affect something, and we have to learn to. And I think one of the biggest challenges we have is we have to educate people.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Education on what it takes to get that that baby calf from the AI straw into the cow, to have her calve, what it's going to take, the whole process. And what may work one year may not work the next year. Everything. There's a lot of prep work that has to go into to be any kind of successful program, and you have to do it. You have to pay attention. It's all little details.
Yeah.
That's what makes the world of difference. You can take a perfectly good straw of semen and ruin it in about 30 seconds by the way you handle it.
Yes.
You know.
Yes. Walk us through that. What ruins a straw of semen for someone that doesn't know?
One of my biggest pet peeves is to go to somebody's place and they're looking for something in their tank. They lift the canister up and they're reading every top of the cane. They put it in, then they set it back down in there like they're saving it. Right. Then they pull it back out and they're still trying to find it. That drives me nuts. Because what's happening is those straws, that liquid nitrogen is 320 degrees below zero. You bring it out to 70 degrees outside, that's starting to thaw out right then. When you start seeing that nitrogen bubbling out of those goblets, it's warming up. And if you hold it up like that, and you just think about that, they go trying to find a straw of semen to breed their cows, and they pull that thing up 10 times a day for 2 months. You're doing some you're doing some damage.
Well, and then they're calling me or you asking, I don't know why my cows aren't pregnant, you know?
Well, that, and also, so handling is that's how you handle it. One thing you need to make sure is you keep your tank maintained.
Yeah.
I've had experiences where people, they depend on somebody else to fill their tank. Well, I know a case or two where they were depending on somebody else to fill their tank, and the guy come and filled the tank, didn't tell him that the tank was dry when he filled it up. And so they'll bring their tank in, and I'll thaw straws out, and everyone will be stone cold dead. Well, and then you go to look at the straws, and you can see how they'd been thawed out, because the straw that's been thawed out and refroze, especially if it's set for any period of time, everything separates, and you can tell that it's been thawed out and warmed up,
Right.
and then refrozen.
Yep.
The biggest indicators, most of the straws will blow up when you try to use them. But fortunately, that doesn't happen very often.
Yeah.
But you need to monitor your semen tank. That thing gets down to 3 or 4 inches. Get it filled back up. Put it in a place where the kids can't get in it, or dump stuff in it. It's amazing how many people over the years that brought tanks in here and have me inventory them, and I get done, and you pull out all kinds of crap out of the tank. Bowled straws, broken, bent canes, pieces of wire, twine. They did, you went, how in the world did that get down in there? And it's probably because the kids are playing in the barn.
Right.
And they're fascinated by the fog coming out of it.
Yeah.
Things like that. It's this. So it's like it's the little things you need to pay attention to when you're one of the biggest things, especially if you're breeding cattle in cold weather. Best invention ever is a gun warmer. You take that straw semen. What damages sperm more than anything is temperature fluctuation.
Yes.
You take the straw out of a nitrogen tank and it's 320 below zero. You put it in a 97-degree water bath. Then you put it in your AI gun, and if you don't warm up your AI gun, that's 60 degrees. Then you put it in your shirt and walk across the corral, and the wind's blowing, and it's 40 degrees. Time you get to the cow, then you stick it in the cow, and it spikes back up to 100 degrees. That's causing. You want to make that. The idea is to get the straw semen into that cow as fast as possible, so that the temperature is constantly rising. 97 degrees is colder than the cow. But once you get in the cow, and a lot of people get nervous when they're AI and they can't, if they're having trouble getting the cow threaded, take your time. It's not going to hurt it. That's the best place for it, right there. Because that's the perfect temperature.
Yeah.
And so, that I think, and another thing to be careful of is when you do get semen shipped to you, make sure that when you pull that cork out of that vapor tank, fog comes out of it. Because if no fog comes out, it doesn't matter if there's no liquid. I have guys call once in a while, they're worried that there's no liquid in the tank. Well, theoretically, there shouldn't be any liquid in the tank. If there were, we'd get in trouble. Because that's nowadays is considered hazmat. I remember the days we'd put liquid nitrogen tanks on the Greyhound bus and ship them. Nowadays, you'd go to prison for that. When I first started working for Keith Hoffman, that's what I would do every day. I'd take at least 3 or 4 tanks up to Logan, up in the Greyhound station. And they'd put them right underneath, under with the luggage.
Yeah.
If they tipped over, everybody's stuff got frozen. But anyway,
that's awesome.
But no, that with the vapor tanks, they're designed that if you shouldn't have any liquid, but you should still have cold vapor.
Yeah.
Coming out of the tank. That's one thing to make sure of.
Right.
And if you're questioning it, always call where it came from, and just to double check.
Yeah. Yep. And I think all of those are just such solid, actionable pieces of advice that it doesn't take that much to make those small changes. But that is the difference between, am I going to get a calf or not? Am I going to make good use of this heat or not? Am I going to get my return on investment or not?
It's the difference between 80% conception and 50% conception.
Yes.
And that's huge.
Yep. Oh, absolutely.
If you're a purebred cow breeder or a purebred breeder, and you only have 50 head of cows, 50% is terrible.
Right. And like you said, I mean, you can get so much better success. People will ask, I hear all the time, as an AI technician, I'll say, well, what's your success rate? I'm like, what a question, right? You know what I mean? Because it depends on a whole fleet of things, including my ability, but a whole fleet of things in addition to it. But if we can add up, if each of those only changes us by a couple percentage points, but we add up all of them and say we didn't yank the canister up and half thawed out over and over again. You know, we didn't run the tank dry to where we're going to plummet right to 0%. We didn't, you know, stick our fingers in and touch every straw and then stick it back
right
in.
there
You know,
you don't realize that, especially nowadays with the use of quarter cc straws.
Yeah.
You can thaw that straw out by just going like that.
Yep.
You have so much. You need to take more care now especially with most of the big AI studs have gone to quarter cc straws.
Yes.
They require. That's why this gun warmer, I think, is the best thing going, because that keeps that temperature the same. A lot of the guys, they warm the straw in the gun warmer. They just put it in the gun and put it in the warmer. They don't use the water bath. And you know, as long as you cut, but you also need to cut your equipment. I've had it happen to me. One day I was breeding cows and I put my finger in to pick the straw, and I mean, that's dang hot. I put my thermometer in there. That thing was 110 degrees. Mm-hmm. That'll kill sperm faster than cold.
Right.
You're better off not warming it up in a water bath and putting it in the cow than if you get that too hot, because it'll fry it. Mm-hmm. And so those little automatic thaw boxes and stuff are great, but you need to monitor them once in a while. Make sure because if the element wears out or burns up or something, then it'll get hotter than the 110. It'll get hot.
Oh yeah. Yep.
And so if you're not paying attention, you need to. It'll cause you some problems.
Oh, absolutely. Yep. Well, and it's all those, it's so many little things that, you know, I mean, for you and me are second nature, but for somebody running through it their first time, if they did the combination of all those things, specifically if they let the thing run dry at any point in time, in any way, shape, or form, that's game over.
It's game over.
There is no way you are getting anything off the whole tank, you know, and if you, like you mentioned, if it's someone else filling it and you're not aware that it went dry and then got refilled, you don't even know that all your embryos are dead, all your semen's dead, all of everything's dead.
And I do have customers that store their tanks or semen at home. They do bring them in every spring before they start, and we'll look at a straw or two just to make sure.
Sure, a lot cheaper to come in and take a little bit extra time and glance at a straw
and especially that custom
scope.
Collected semen that only costs you a couple bucks a straw. Yes. Why not check one of those? Because if your chances are, if it's good, the rest of it's good. Right. You know, you don't necessarily have to sacrifice your $100 straw semen. Sure. But check something that's not just because if that tank goes dry, it's gonna affect everything.
Oh, absolutely. Yep. Or like you mentioned, I mean, if you received a shipper and it didn't have vapor when it opened, like it's dry and it should be dry, but there should be vapor. And if there's not, and you went and just put that in and just started using it, you're not gonna know until you got a bunch of open cows. And there's nothing more expensive than open cows.
Exactly.
I mean, feed's the number one expense you've got.
Yep.
And if you just eliminated all your revenue because nothing's pregnant. Right. You know, I mean, that's a big problem, you know, if they don't stick. So, and I think anyway, all of those are just super actionable things, you know, for people just to understand and think it through, that it's like, hey, yeah, AI is neat. It's a wonderful technology. So grateful you provide the service and does so much good for me and for so many of my clients that you ship the semen out from my bulls to, and, you know, and such a great thing. But to understand that, like, hey, just because I've got this great semen doesn't mean I'm going to get a great calf. Like, we got to make sure it shows up cold, stays cold, doesn't get monkeyed with, doesn't fly up and down for temperature as we thaw and put it in the cow. You know, we need to take care of it, you know, to get the best results. So if you were looking today, Doug, at your best clients and your worst clients, as far as the ones that are easiest to deal with and or the ones that are the hardest to deal with, what are some I guess some things that you would say, hey, here's maybe some common mistakes we see, or some common things that make it challenging to deal with a client that you'd say, hey, don't do this if you're a new guy, right? Or what are some commonalities among your best clients that, hey, this makes a good client for you as far as the breeders you work with?
Well, I think unreal, how do you put it? Unreal expectations.
Yeah.
And like I said, a lot of it goes back to people. Some of my new clients that we get, they're the most challenged are the ones that they don't have an ag background.
Right.
They have different expectations of not only the product, but also of your service level.
Sure.
And especially we live in an AI world. Everybody wants something to happen tomorrow.
Right.
One of our the biggest challenges we have in the springtime is shipping is tank availability.
Absolutely. Yes.
I
Yep.
own 100+ tanks, and there are times where I don't have one of them. I can go and try to scrounge up. In fact, I've had to go and ask some guy if I can borrow his shipper to take care of somebody that calls with a last minute order that has to be there tomorrow.
Yes.
And so it goes back to the customer service. And sometimes some of those are a little challenging to deal with. You're always, as in any business, you're going to have some people that are more demanding than others. I think the ones that I've learned over the years, that's one nice thing about being old and having experiences. You kind of learn how to filter out who you're going to deal with as much, you can see them coming from a mile away.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I can tell you there's over the years, I've had several opportunities. At the time it was a great deal. Somebody come in and all of a sudden things go south on either the bull didn't sell or weren't able to, their marketing was flawed, or they had unreal expectations going in. I provided the service they contracted for. But all of a sudden, if they can't move that semen, all of a sudden I become their partner.
Right. And you own a bunch of semen you didn't want to own.
I don't want to be their partner.
Right.
Right. Well, what are you going to do to sell this? Well, I didn't
sign up to sell it. You signed up to sell it.
Yeah. That's one of the challenges we have sometimes. But and that's what I'm trying to train my son. Is don't bite off more than you can chew.
Sure. Yep.
If it sounds too good to be true, make sure you better study it, because it probably is.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's like it is in anything you deal with in life. It's just you need to have the expectations. The one thing I've learned is everybody needs to know, be on the same page when you start.
Absolutely. Well, and to comment on both of those things, I guess on the sales end of stuff and the shipping end of stuff, because I do think it's important for people to understand. Number one, on the shipping, that shipper availability gets tight. You know what I mean? And you can't just put it in a box and send it. It's got to go out in a vapor shipper. And so I think, and I am as guilty of this as anyone. You always ought to target being a month in advance. I do it. Anyway, I wish I had completely eliminated that bad habit in myself. But anytime I can be a month in advance, I'm sure an awful lot happier than if I realize, hey, I've pushed it so tight that now it's unrealistic for me to expect to pull off getting a shipper and getting UPS to actually overnight stuff versus just bill me extra and then still take 4 days. But you know what I mean? Like getting all those pieces to align is so hard. You're so much better off to say, hey, if I need semen in, or embryos in, or whatever else, work on it a month in advance. And I know that you guys will do everything in your power to make it happen overnight if it were in a panicked emergency. And most studs around the country are the same. We'll try to do that, but there's a limit to what's possible, especially in those peak seasons.
Right. Well, and that's one thing. A lot of it's just the same. They're good customers that are highly successful in their own programs. They have good bull sales. They have lots of repeat customers. You watch how they operate. And that's what I try to do. That's one of the nice parts about going around the country and collecting bulls at different ranches. You can kind of see the places that you'd buy bulls from.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
And they all have the same. They have the same philosophies. They pay attention to the little things, because all those little things add up to big things over time.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. It doesn't all just happen. Just doesn't just happen overnight.
Oh, yes.
You know as well as I do when you're raising cattle. If you get a calf that's born out in the snow, if you don't get him in and get him warmed up, he's not going to live.
Yep.
And so you got to be there and take care of those little things like that. And I think another challenge we're seeing, it's not so much a challenge, I find it interesting, especially in our area here, you'll have people move in. We call them. They call themselves homesteaders.
Oh yeah.
They
yeah,
buy the
yeah,
they got
yeah.
the 5
Oh, yeah.
acres and they
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
raise a backyard milk cow or two, or they're the ones that raise the exotic little Highlanders or the little mini cattle and things like that.
Sure.
They're nice people,
Yeah.
and a lot of them though they don't understand. Everything's especially when it comes to AI. They'll call you up and say, "Hey, my cow, I need to get my cow bred," and they don't understand that she needs to be in heat. They don't understand what to look for. So there's a lot of education we have to do.
Oh yeah.
And it's tough, tough to go breed somebody's backyard milk cow if they only have one cow.
Right.
How do you know she's in heat? Well, she's mooing.
Right.
Well,
Right. Yeah.
that's what cows do.
Right.
That's one of the signs, if they're mooing more than normal and walking the fence, and that's about all you can go by, or their milk drops down, or they quit, the day or two while they're in heat, they don't produce as much. Things like that's about all you got. So you have to educate them. Well, we're going to try to hit this just as close as we can. But, I go and breed a cow that they call me, and I get there and she's got mucus running out of her. Well, I know she's probably early or she's late. And if she's late, you're not going to get her settled. And if she's early, you might get lucky. And some of those times you end up going back twice because you want to make sure. I'll breed the same cow 12 out 2 times just to hopefully you'll hit her just right, because they don't have any other way to tell if she's actually at the right, she's being mounted or whatever.
Right. Yep. Well, and I think it's really important to understand, just like you've mentioned. I mean, just the reality of living things is that there's a lot of stuff that's nuanced. You know what I mean? It's not mechanized. It's not automatic. It's not cookie cutter. There's a lot of individuality. The seasons play into it. Nutrition plays into it. The individual plays into it. And then just the systems you have set up as far as who the client is and what their setup is, and then what your schedule is as a technician. A lot that goes into that. But I think I just had a conversation today, with the client as well, just talking about doing like you'd said there, as far as it does take time. You know what I mean? To kind of build out any of it, to build out your systems for production, to get all those little things in a row where, yeah, maybe each little thing you change is only really changing your total outcome by 1 or 2%, but you do enough of those little things and it really changes things. And it's the same on the marketing end. You'd mentioned people putting up a pile of semen on a bull because, man, we're just going to sell a ton of semen on this bull, and then they don't. And I think it's important, again, to just start with realistic expectations, and whatever it is you're selling, whether it's you're going to put up some semen on a bull, you're going to sell live bulls, whatever it is you're selling, to start by saying, hey, we're going to sell a little bit, and then we're going to build upon that by a little bit. And then you're not immediately going to go on year 1 to operating at the same level that someone that's been doing it for 20 years or 50 years or 100 years.
Right.
It takes time.
You look at some of these successful, especially beef operations in the West and all over the country, the ones that have been doing it for 50, 100 years. Well, they should have a clientele base that's loyal. And there's that, you see a lot of that. And I don't care what breed of cattle it is. I remember when a lot of the Hereford breeders started raising Solaire cattle because they were, that Hereford deal took a big hit. And what it's done is it's made them raise good Hereford cattle. Yeah. They're good Hereford cattle now. Yep. Because they had to. It was at the point where they just had to have a white face and you could sell them. Well, that changed. Yep. And now it's kind of, you're seeing an evolution, but in any breed of cattle, they have to be good. Yeah. To market them, and then you've got to be able to stand by them, and I've seen people are successful. I don't care what breed of cattle they are. I've seen people that are very successful. And people wonder, why are you raising them? Well, they seem to do a pretty good job, and they sell them well, and they've got return customers. So there's something they're doing right. Yeah. There's different, like with there's a lot of novelty type that we talked about, like the Highlanders and the miniature cattle and things like that. Well, those are niche markets. and no one's ever going to sell a lot of that. And that helps us as a custom stud because the big AI studs don't carry those kind of bulls.
Right. Yeah.
But I know several clients that do quite well.
Oh yeah.
They've got a good little breeding program. They might only own 20 cows, but I tell you what, they sell every bull and they sell them for a lot of money.
Yeah.
And they sell semen. Some of them make more money selling semen than they will selling bulls.
Oh yeah.
Because they can market it. Their market is limited, but they sell that semen for $100 to $150 a straw.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, and I think it is a lot of it's just kind of sticking with whatever it is you decide to do, whatever breed or whatever marketing program, sticking with it over time, because I think it's way too common that I see people jump in and just assume right away, immediately, within a year, we're just going to market it at a wildly high level. And I think it's like you said, it's having realistic expectations and coming in and saying, hey, it is going to take time. By its very nature, cattle take years. By the time you try to breed them, calve them, raise them, get on to the next generation, I mean, it is a slow, long burn. And if you're not committed to be in this deal for at least 3 to 5 years, there's no way. I mean, it's not to say that people don't get lucky, and on occasion, yeah, you jump right in and kind of fall into something that happened to work out good. But if you're really going to build your own cattle breeding program, it's going to take years to dial in production, and it's going to take years to dial in sales. And it just takes a combination of a lot of little things.
Yep. And it's like anything else, timing and luck.
Yeah.
There's some luck involved, I think.
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of it too is you've got to be dedicated to what you're doing.
Right.
You know, if you're trying to do it as a sideline, it's a little tougher.
Yep.
You know, and in the cattle industry, it's always been this way. You've got different camps. You have your production guys, and basically then you have your show world, and it's a whole different dynamic too. You know.
Yeah, for sure.
And some of them are fortunate enough and are skillful enough to do both.
Yeah. No,
and they do both well.
Yeah. You bet. So looking, I guess, kind of wrapping up here, Doug, as you look at Hoffman AI today, and I guess your career coming to this point, you know, is there anything else in particular you'd like to go over, I guess, in your history getting to this point, or anything that you look at that either excites you going forward from this point, or anything that really concerns you about the industry going forward from this point?
Well, I'm still excited about. I don't think artificial insemination, the industry itself, is not going. I don't think it's going anywhere.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think that we need to adapt to different changes in the industries, to cattle, and so as far as I'm getting to the point where I got less years ahead than behind me, and I'm not that old, but you start your perspective changes. Sure. I'm trying to make it to where another generation can go on. I'm hoping my son carries on, and we have differences of opinion, and we have different viewpoints, and my biggest challenge, as I tell him, is not always all about money.
Sure.
Sometimes you've got to do something just because you got to do it because it's the right thing to do.
Sure.
But as far as I think, we've got some decisions we're going to have to make in the next few years. One of them being we may, like I told you at the beginning, we used to be out in the country and we're surrounded. We're in the city now.
Right.
And that provides its own set of challenges.
Yes.
I used to not too worry if a bull got out or something, I could get him back in. I wasn't too worried about it. But now everything's locked up like Fort Knox because they're on the highway. If they get out now, it's kind of a challenge.
Oh, absolutely.
I just think it's I'm pretty optimistic, and you have to just look ahead and try to be proactive in what we're doing, and that's the challenge. As you can spend, and I think that's a challenge that a lot of agriculture in general, farmers, they're and ranchers, the people we deal with, they're some of the best people in the world. We go to their place to do bulls. They invite you in, feed you. They don't know me from, after they know me now. Some of them do, but a lot of them, when I first show up, they don't know who I am, and they treat me just like I'm their neighbor. and but we spend a lot of one of the faults I think we all have in agriculture is we're so busy working that we don't see what's going on outside. And I've seen several cattle guys in especially in the red. If you're in the seed stock business, you need to get out and see what other people are doing.
Oh yeah.
And even in my instance, I sometimes need to. You get blinders on and you do it like you want to do it and you do it like you've always done it, but a lot of times that's not always the best way. And sometimes it wouldn't hurt to take a weekend and drive down and visit even if it's just one of your guys that you buy bulls from or something. Go see how he does his operation.
Yeah.
You might learn something.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Well, we get so busy working and we don't have time, and
Oh, yeah.
it's a challenge.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the reasons I so appreciate you taking the time to sit down with me, Doug, is, like you'd mentioned, it's so easy to get just so busy. There is so much work to be done that, I think we could run a million miles an hour from now till we drop and still not get to about half of it, Right. And so taking a moment to stop and learn, whether that is in person or at a minimum, taking the time to listen to a podcast or whatever else that may be, and take a chance to learn,
They listen to mine and they'll say, well, I know what I'm not doing.
Well, I tell you this much, I am awfully grateful you do it, Doug, because I talk to so many people across the country that I deal with, and so many of them, it's such a challenge to get bulls collected, you know what I mean? Or to have access to a stud facility, or to be able to get in, or to get a degree of customer service, or a fair price, or whatever that may be. And I count myself so fortunate that I am right here in the same valley you are, and the work that you've done directly impacts the business that feeds my family, and I'm grateful for that.
Well, we appreciate you. I've seen you. I remember when you brought in you've collected everything from Charolais to Herefords to Wagyu and Akaushi and Angus.
Yeah, little of all of it. Yeah, absolutely.
So it all and in my world, it doesn't matter what kind they are. I love them all.
Yeah.
As long as they make good semen.
Yeah.
I don't care what they are.
And, you have put up semen on every one of those breeds for us. You know what? And that's been such an important part of our process. At this point in time, most people that are aware of who I am or what I do would be familiar with the Akaushi that are the bulk of what we do now. But it took all those years and all those tests, to get all the way to here. It's part of that journey we're talking about.
Yeah. And you have to find something that, it's interesting that that's one thing that I talked about earlier that keeps us as a custom bull stud in business is all these other breeds of cattle, not your run of the mill Angus, Hereford. We do a lot of them.
Sure.
But we're in competition with the big AI companies that are selling them.
Sure.
So, we're usually collecting sons of those bulls. But on the other breeds of cattle, they're the ones being our customers are directly marketing them.
Yeah. Yep.
And they're fun to do.
Yeah. Well, and we appreciate you doing it. It's every straw of semen we've ever sold on a bull that I've bred and calved and raised. It's all come through here, and I appreciate that. Appreciate you.
Yep.
Anything else you would throw in there, Doug, for somebody that's maybe new or getting going in cattle? Any final words or thoughts or anything you would share with someone that's getting going, or maybe just starting into AI on their farm?
Well, if you're starting new in the cattle business, or you want an AI program, you need to consult with people that know how to do it. You can come and talk to people like me that are in the AI business. Talk to other ranchers that do AI, that do it successfully. That's one of the good. I always I didn't mention this. As I grew up, I started checking my first job when my dad went at the ranch. My first job was when I was 12 years old, and we shoveled feed bunks on the weekend. And that was building character.
Right.
We shoveled feed bunks in the feedlot and shoveled out water troughs and things like. But in the summertime, as soon as school got out, we were up we checked heats on cows. We were 5 o'clock in the morning. We're on the horse, and they would breed these cow. They'd breed everything, all the purebred cattle, AI.
Yeah.
And they'd do it no synchronization. You just breed them as they come in.
Yep.
We'd have 20 head of spotter bulls, put the harnesses on them, and you would be out there at 5 o'clock as soon as that sun comes up, finding hot cows.
Yeah.
Well, and I did that from the time I was 12 years old clear until I got out of high school.
Yeah.
You know, every summer you start breeding, when school's out, but we start doing the AI on the purebred cows on 1st of June. We check heats clear into August, and then they'd go to the mountain.
Yeah.
Well, you learn what it taught me what a hot cow was.
Right.
But that's the very basic thing to AI.
Absolutely.
You need to know when to breed her.
Yes.
And if you don't, you need to go talk to somebody that AI's a lot of cows.
Yeah.
And they can tell you what you need to look for and when, and what little things that help them be successful in their program.
Right.
Like I said, if you've got reproduction problems in your herd, AI is not going to help you. It's going to hurt you.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Because there's something else affecting it. So, but it never hurts to go ask, and most people are willing to help you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I so appreciate all of the help you provided me through the years, Doug, all that you continue to do, and appreciate you taking the time to, I guess, provide help to the folks that listen to this podcast, and appreciate you doing it.
Well, thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely.
Hopefully it'll be beneficial to you.
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure it will, my friend. Thank you. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Got Any Cows podcast. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts, and visit us anytime at gotanycows.com.